the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence. I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello Lee Summit, I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of April 6th. The general municipal election is Tuesday, April 7th. Lee Summit voters can look up their council district, find their polling location, and view candidate filings on our city elections page. Visit our website at cityofls.net. Season passes are on sale for Summit Waves. A season pass costs $105 for Lee Summit residents and $140 for non-residents. Save $10 if you order before May 1st. Head to summitwaves.net to buy your season passes now. Volunteer for Stream Team and help protect our local streamside habitats by removing litter and debris from streams within the city's parks. This event will take place on April 18th from 10 a.m. to noon at McKee Park. Trash bags and gloves are provided. Student and Scout community service hours are available. Volunteers must register and sign a waiver before the event. Learn more at cityofls.net/greenls. And the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market is back in full swing. The Wednesday market will be at Green Street from 8 a.m. to noon. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
The City of Lee Summit has hundreds of traffic lights across its more than 1,000 lane miles, all managed by the city's Public Works traffic technicians. The work happens inside those metal boxes on the side of each intersection. Inside, technicians program a device called the controller. The controller communicates directly with each signal head via underground wires, telling each light when to turn on and off based on a programmed cycle. City traffic engineers design this cycle to allow traffic to flow as efficiently as possible for that particular intersection. In order to best match current traffic patterns, they install something called a detection system. Detection systems have taken many forms over the years, from sensors in the pavement to radar boxes. But in Lee Summit, they primarily consist of cameras, which workers mount above the traffic signals. These cameras don't record video or your speed. Instead, they monitor the spaces at the front of the intersection and identify when a vehicle is present in a specific spot. Once a vehicle is identified, the detection system sends a message to the controller, which then adapts its standard cycle to best serve the cars that are present. The pedestrian button works in a similar way. When the button is pressed, the controller receives a signal, requesting that it allow that section of the pedestrian walkway to go, which it then inserts into the signal pattern. Technicians also install something called a conflict monitor. The conflict monitor is a device in which they program all the potential patterns of lights that would lead to a collision. If the other systems mistakenly trigger those patterns, the conflict monitor sends the intersection into flash, causing all lights to flash red and directing drivers to treat it like an all-way stop. City traffic technicians implement and maintain these systems so effectively, we rarely consider them. But every time we safely pass through a signal-controlled intersection, it's all thanks to their work. So the next time you're waiting at a red light, remember the delicate coordination of super smart systems that move you through that space safely and efficiently every day.
Officers en route, 914, armed robbery. I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, Mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor.
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
Councilmember Funk,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Here.
Vice Chair Lovell, Chair Shields.
Here. All right, first item is approval of the agenda. Before we do that, I do want to make one change, little agenda management item 5M, the 2026 Legacy Blast discussion. We're going to move up to the beginning of 5, right before 5A, just due to some staffing timing issues tonight. So with that change, I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is public comments. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment today?
No public
And
comments.
if it wants. Okay. Then we will move into business. So as I mentioned, we have adjusted the agenda. So first item is going to be 2026-7587, the 2026 Legacy Blast Event Consideration of Enhancements for USA 250th and the World Cup. Mr. Snook presenting. Thank you.
Good evening, Joe Snook, Administrator, Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you for adjusting the agenda for me. I really appreciate that. So we're here this evening to request some additional funding to enhance Legacy Blast for this upcoming season in July of 2026. So just a quick background, I think this might be helpful. So our first Legacy Blast was in 2022. At that, I'm sorry, thank you, 2002. Can't even read my own slides. At that time, I think it was in 2001, the mayor and city manager at that time approached the park board, wanted to suggest a partnership to have a 4th of July event. We agreed. The city said they would fund it if the parks would plan and execute that event, and that has kind of been our standing agreement for the last 20 plus years. Of course, this event wouldn't be successful without the continued support and involvement from our police department, our fire department, very heavily supported by the police department. I know it takes a lot of effort with the traffic and so forth. Just to note, we did cancel the event twice in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID. So I can't say that we've been doing it for 24 events. We've done 22 events over 24 years. Annually, we see about 20 to 25,000 viewers who are either in our venues or around in the neighborhoods and the different areas that can host them. And then, just as a reminder, last year the investment from the city was $55,000. So with this year, I think everybody's very on top of it, but we have the 250th celebration of the United States of America. We have World Cup visitors who will be in our region during this celebration time. I know throughout the community, and I think from other leaders in our community, I've heard expectations of a more robust event. We will be partnering with 94.9 KCMO again. They've been a long-standing partner. I will point out we have limited available parking. So right now our parking is pretty much tapped out. We fill the parking up every year. And so how do we make that a more robust event? How do we get more people in there? And we have a plan for that. And that's what I'm going to share. That was part of the funding increase request tonight. And one thing I do want to note, our gates typically open at 6. We are proposing that we open them at 5 because of the possibility of a bigger event. But also last year and for the last couple of years, we have started seeing people showing up at 5, and we do not have staff in place, and we don't have the entertainment. We don't have everything set up until it's probably getting set up at 5. The people are now showing up and getting in through the gates and that kind of thing. So we think with the expected large turnout, perhaps opening at 5 this year would be a good move. So basically, the request, you can see where the $55,000 in 2025 was used to support this event. That is not the entire cost of the event, but that's where the money from the city goes. We also have a lot of miscellaneous things like barricades and LSPR staff time, all those kind of things that we're paying people for. But just for tonight's purposes, you can see where the 55 was spent last year. The added request is the 2026 column, and you can see where that difference is. So what we are proposing is an additional $20,000 for the fireworks themselves. What that will do is that will create a much more intense finale as well as a lead up to that finale. So what we're not proposing is increasing the length of the show. The show is about 22 to 24 minutes. Our conversations with the fireworks experts is that if you get beyond about 25 minutes, it's too long and people lose interest. So we try to keep it within that 25, but this is to increase the intensity throughout the show. Increase the entertainment by $9,000. This will add more jugglers and face painters and balloon artists and double the amount of entertainment that we have at each of the venues. Then we propose the DJ's an extra $1,000, so that $1,000 is basically because the extra hour we're open, we have DJs at all the venues, so this would be to cover that extra hour. I will point out that $9,000 also includes an extra hour of entertainment at all the venues. We also, so this is where we get to additional capacity at the venues. So we looked at, we really looked at how do we get the people from that may be international visitors to this venue to enjoy this event, right? Are they going to be driving cars? You know, I think there's a lot of questions we don't know. Well, we looked at, and I think we've got it pretty much, we got it lined up if the funding is there, but we're going to create a shuttle service with buses. So we will take a bus to every hotel. We'll have a sign-up process that they can do online, free, no charge, so we can get an idea of how many people will need bus service, but we will shuttle people from their hotel locations to Legacy Park. We will park those buses in our secondary parking area at soccer. So we have the upper parking lot areas where everybody parks now when they drive, and then we got a lower parking lot area that you really won't be able to see the event very well if you park there. We'll park the buses there that they can come out and experience all of Legacy Blast at the soccer venue with all of our community that's in the soccer venue. So that would be the bus support. We would take care of that with volunteers to assist as well as staff to get everybody there. Security, that's an additional, so we hire private security to assist us out in the trails in the back areas where we have access concerns. So we've had people access the event and the venue from the neighborhoods in the back, which is off limits because a lot of times they're in a blast zone. And so we have staff back there now. They don't really always heed staff's direction. So we've had to add security in the past. This would add a little additional security, which is something we're going to have to do regardless because it's becoming more prevalent from our neighborhoods behind us. And then we just do a little $500 miscellaneous because I'm sure there's something we didn't think about, we might forget, but just give us a little buffer. So the added request is for $38,000 on top of the traditional $55,000. That would get us a total request of $93,000 to produce this event at a much more robust level. And I think that is my presentation. Yep. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Just a procedural question for whoever on staff. Given the city manager's discretionary spending authority, would this trigger an ordinance, or what happens if the city council does want to proceed on this increased spending?
Yeah, so Mark Dunning, city manager. City manager has authority up to $75,000. Part of the consideration of this is not necessarily allocating additional general fund revenues because we're putting together a very, very tight budget. So the consideration would be, do we want, if there's direction to enhance Legacy Blast, we could do that through a couple different sources. We have a healthy reserve fund in the business and industry fund of over $1 million. And then we also have our general fund reserve, which is sitting right at 35% as well. So that's part of why we're bringing it forward for a committee suggestion, and would take it forward with any recommendation from this body to the full council to direct staff to allocate any additional funding if that was the desire to move forward.
Okay. So for the members of the committee, definitely like your feedback on this of whether you think this is a good idea, worth doing, worth the cost, and then if so, would we want to look at general fund reserves or business and industry fund reserves? And kind of as a reminder, we have a fund balance in business and industry fund, but we are currently running a deficit budget in those funds as we were trying to get the Tourism Bureau spun up and increase some support to downtown Main Street and the EDC. So we're hoping to see hotels come online and those receipts go up and be able to go back to a balanced budget there over the next several years, but we are eating down those reserves year by year right now. And then of course you all know for the general fund, we have a floor of a 25% fund balance, a ceiling of a 35% fund balance, and you said we're sitting right around 35%. Yeah, so we have capacity in the general fund reserves, and this definitely would be a one-time expense since we wouldn't be doing this enhanced program every year just for the 250th anniversary in the World Cup. So kind of with that framing, I'd open it up. Mayor Pro Tem or Councilmember Funk, do either of you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I appreciate the update and presentation by Mr. Snook and Mr. Dunning. As most people know, I've been a supporter of Legacy Blast from day one, and I just think it's the right patriotic community building kind of event. One of the biggest ones we have each year, and I've always been an advocate and a supporter of it. And this additional request kind of goes along the lines of, the discussion we had within this committee and amongst the entire council, all of our colleagues, not too long ago, when we had presentations made by our Visitors Bureau, and as well as our other community partners, that it goes without saying, being that a couple of things, it's the 250th anniversary of our country, but also tying that into the World Cup activity and the idea that we have some tourists here, and we'll have some tourists in the area. I think this bodes well for the same kind of concept that we approved the funding for LS 2026, where I think it's some form of economic development. I think this will continue to improve and enhance the opportunity for any visitors that we may have from out of town. But again, the fundamental purpose is for our own citizens to be able to enjoy something special. And being that this is a special one for the 250th year anniversary, but also the World Cup, I'd be in support of recommending this to the full council.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And Mr. Snook, it sounds like most of those enhancements, other than the shuttle service, are things that our community would enjoy, not just visitors, the increased hours and entertainment and all that. Is that kind of correct? I mean, it could encourage visitors as well, but all those would be enjoyed by our residents.
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilmember Funk, do you have any thoughts?
No, I would agree with Mayor Pro Tem Lopez that, this is something great for our community, celebrate the 250th and also, really put on a good show for our visitors from all over the world. And I think we pretty well written out, we go to the general fund for this.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
I would agree with that general fund reserve balance.
Okay, I think so as well. We've already dipped into the business industry fund for the LS Goal 26, so I think we can kind of have a little balanced approach here. That sound about right? All right, I think we've got consensus. Okay. Yes, general fund. Mr. Dunning, I assume you'll bring something forward to full council? All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right, then that will take us back to the beginning of our agenda. Item A, 2026-7549, approval of the March 2nd, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee action letter.
Chair,
yes.
I move to approve the March 2nd, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee action letter.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the action letter. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right. Next item is TMP-3615, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 10107 related to the schedule of fees and charges for the City of Lee Summit and establishing a new schedule of fees and charges to take effect July 1, 2026 for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri. Do we have Mr. Gentry?
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Rick Gentry, Budget Manager. There we go. Item before us this evening is the schedule of fees for the the FY27 budget year. This is an annual process we go through each year as part of the budget process, as have departments review their fees for charges for services, permits, and licenses each year. The departments had opportunity to provide feedback, and we had several of the departments that did their annual increases. You have our airport, they go through and look at market prices, and then they also do most of their adjustments based upon the CPI. So they did apply those this year. We had a couple of departments with labor agreements and police department. They increased the amount they're charging for the officers as outside agencies use those. And then water utilities, we had the public hearing at the March 10th meeting for the council, which they did their public hearing for the annual sewer rate, setting of those rates, and give public opportunity to provide feedback on those. And their water rates have been reviewed and approved by their water board, as are included in the packet as well. We did ask the departments to go back again and take another look at those, and some of the more departments came back. Public Works looked at a few of theirs and increased some of those and identified some additional revenues for FY27. Then we did go back and apply a flat 3% increase to all the other flat rates that hadn't been increased at this time. So those are reflected in there. So as you're looking at the red line version of the document, the ones that are in red text, those are the ones that came back from the departments.
Can you pull up that red line just while you're talking about it?
Can we access the internet from this computer? Okay. Yeah, I'll let you.
So we should just be able to do it.
Oh, just go there. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I get to there. I get to it from there. Okay, thank you. I didn't know it was going to be that easy. And a red line version, correct? All right. And which page, Madam Chair?
Just what you were mentioning what we were seeing in the red line, but
okay.
we didn't see a red line, so.
Okay,
yeah.
great, yes. So you can see these are the, so in the red line version, this is the version with the edits. The one that the attachment is an exhibit is the clean version. It'll get posted online and updated online. This is for the public's and council's information. So the red lines, those are the ones in red text, which we've done edits where they canceled things, updated descriptions. And so those are all the airport is they go through and do a very fine job of reviewing theirs every year. And we get down to the airport, here we go. So then we get down to this section down here. You see the ones that are in blue text. Those are the ones that we applied the flat 3% rounded up to the nearest dollar to make them look a little nicer. So those are the others that have been increased for that. And then if it's a black text, then it's simply the prior year's changes that's come across. So we did not change any of the ones that are based upon percentages because we assume that the additional cost will be captured because the inflation, the cost of doing projects and those costs will be captured as the projects, as we go forward.
So it sounds like it's a mix of some that are kind of market adjustments for just based on like the airport, what their competitors are doing, and then mostly CPI, which is basically an inflation adjustment, right?
Yes. Yeah, we did the CPI adjustment to most of these because some of them you can see in there, they have not adjusted. Because we did ask from this time, when was the last time that you're aware of it was adjusted? And some of them you can see were back in 2010. So we felt this time we need to start doing some incremental increases on some of these. And our water rates, they increase each year incrementally. They don't take big jumps because they have factors that they have to account for, the increase in the cost of water and sewer processing. So, yeah.
Kind of keeping up with changing cost levels and making sure we don't fall too far behind on those to be able to provide the same level of service and everything.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the committee? If there's no questions, then I would look for motion.
Chair, I move.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next on our agenda is TMP-3618, an ordinance approving amendment number 4 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2026, as adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri. Mr. Gentry again.
Hey, thank you, Chair. This is our budget amendment number 4 to the FY26 fiscal year budget. The biggest components of this budget amendment are several transfers that we're doing and a few spending increase authorizations. The most significant transfers are for the mayor and council recently approved the agreement with Axon Enterprise for replacement of the body cameras, car cameras, drones, and some other video capabilities and video storage with Axon for the police department on a 5-year contract. So this includes that transfer of the money from PSST over to the PSERP fund, our Public Safety Equipment Replacement Fund. We'll be making purchases for public safety out of that fund, because another item, we'll talk about that in a little bit, is the for accounting purposes and to put it all in one place, was expensed out of one place. We're putting those assets so they will actually live in that fund for our accounting purposes as well. So you'll be seeing us do that. And as we work on the budget, we're building those transfers into the budget so they won't be having to come forward as an amendment as long as they're a planned purchase. So this is a 5-year agreement. This is year 1. Years 2 through 5 will include as part of the budgeting process. Another one of the items that's being transferred, speaking of that, is our fire pumper and fire ambulance leases. We're going to put those over into the PSERP fund as well. So you'll see that as payments have already occurred this year, but future state. But to move this year's expenses and budget, we're going to be moving the funds and doing that transfer as part of this amendment as well. And then a couple other items for increases as there's been some potential hardware failures identified with a signal amplifier, one of our communications with Sheer Road water tower, and doing some increased spending authority to get that repair resolved, so it does not impact service and coverage for our radio system. Parks Department has had to do a couple of repairs that were not planned at Harris Park on their HVAC system and on the pool. And then at the amphitheater, they're implementing a third-party ticketing software, and this is with the new structure in Workday with our cost centers. They're trying to identify all their costs for each one of their programs so they can do their cost recovery. As Mr. Snook likes to talk about, they like to try to recover all their costs. And amphitheater is hitting some more costs than what they had planned on, so we're doing some additional spend authority there. And then there's another transfer from PSST to VERB. An item approved a couple of years ago was the Special Services Bomb Response Unit truck. It's coming. It's one of those that takes a couple of years to build. It's coming in, and part of that purchase was out of PSST. So it's splitting the expense. We're putting all the money over in one place in VERB to cover that. Then another spending authority increases in the VERB program. Part of our earlier budget amendments, we brought the spending authority forward from FY25 for purchase orders. We did miss a few that were all the way back from FY23. Lead time, a lot of our emergency equipment, such as ambulances and some of our dump trucks, takes a couple of years for those to get built as we get in line to get those. So we're bringing the spending authority a little over $1 million forward from FY23, as those things have started to arrive this year. So that's good that they're arriving and being paid for, but we're just bringing that forward so they'll have the capacity to pay for any other items they may have. And then the last thing on the spending side is at March 10th, the council approved the PSA with the LS Gold 26 for the Football Fridays here at Green Street for an amount up to $50,000 out of the Business and Industry Fund. So we've included the increase in spending authority out of the B&I fund. And they've also had some additional expenses that we're putting in there as well for them to be able to cover and stay within their approved budget. So on the personnel side, the HR department is requesting the change of one of their positions, the payroll supervisor to a lead payroll specialist, as they've had some difficulty filling that position, but they're fill this position under that title and that description. And then the last item is the pay and class plan, which reflects that one change, but also includes the recently approved FOP agreement, labor agreement increases for the police staff, or police officers, recruits, and sergeants. And so it does include that, but at this time, this amendment does not include anything for the change in the plans or the cost of the plans. That's still to be determined.
Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Do we have any questions from the committee regarding the amendment?
I do not.
Hearing none, I would look for a motion.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to recommend for approval to full city council TMP-3618, an ordinance approving amendment number 4 to the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, as adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, and 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP 3618 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is TMP 3622, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of hardware, software, and services through the Midwestern Higher Education Commission Cooperative Agreement with Dell for the city's equipment and software replacement programs and support services for software implementations for a not-to-exceed amount of $600,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri. Ms. Newton.
Good evening. Diana Newman, Director of Information Technology. Dell is our standard equipment that we use for our laptops, monitors, and most of our hardware. We're a Dell shop from a hardware perspective and a Microsoft from a primarily software. And Dell also provides services in better utilizing some of that software as well as warranty from those for that hardware. This year there's been a memory shortage, so there has been a cost increase, as well as we have new facilities and new equipment. But the primary expense for the year of 26 is still our equipment replacement program, where we put them on a 4-year cycle for replacing most of our hardware.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Okay. If there's no questions, then I would look for a motion.
Chair, I move for approval to the full council an ordinance authorizing the purchase of hardware, software, and services through the Midwestern Higher Education Commission Cooperative Agreement with Dell for the city's equipment and software replacement programs and support services for software implementations for a not to exceed amount of $600,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and behalf of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP 3622 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next on our agenda is TMP 3647, an ordinance approving the statement of work for professional services with Bellesage Partners to provide supplemental payroll support and Workday payroll system fixes, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri. You're not Ms. Fargo?
No, I am not. Donna Lake, Assistant City Manager. I'm filling in. She is out of the office today. But this is work that Bellesage has been somebody that we contracted with under the city manager's authority to go back to or reconfigure Workday so that it was able to kind of go back to that level pay for the fire service, but then also the changes with the contracts between police and fire. They've done that work. They're bumping up to that $75,000 limit, but additionally, we found out that they had payroll expertise that once our payroll supervisor decided to leave the city. And so to fill that gap and to identify more efficiencies and provide that cross-training and knowledge transfer between multiple people within HR, this request is to an additional $49,000 to increase that contract for that support. And so far, as they're bumping up against that total amount, they've been engaged for the last payroll. We've been able to shorten that time to get payroll completed, which is one of those efficiencies we were hoping to capture. But then also with the cross-train, those sorts of things, you heard the request to change that supervisor down to a lead specialist. Understanding that we may not need a second payroll person, but it may be an opportunity to, depending on the shifts that happen in HR, maybe growing somebody into that position and kind of swapping and not filling the other vacancy that would be created.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or discussion from the committee? I would just say that I appreciate your continued efforts on getting all the payroll issues, the level pay sorted out. It is greatly appreciated, and I know it's been a lot of work, so we appreciate that we've been able to find some good partners to do that. So if there's no other comments, I would look for a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to recommend for approval to full city council TMP-3647, an ordinance approving the statement of work for professional services with Bellesage Partners to provide supplemental payroll support and Workday payroll system fixes, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3647 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is TMP-3650, an ordinance approving the award of RFP number 2026-046 for EMS billing and cost recovery services for a 3-year term with up to 2 one-year renewals to EMS Management Consultants, Inc., EMS MC, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Good afternoon. Tiffany Morwick, Deputy Director of Finance. We've been using EMS recovery billing services since 2014. In this past fiscal year, we collected $3.8 million. Fees totaled $150, and at that price, we were charged 3.95% for that collection fee. It was up for bid for as the 5-year term expired. So the RFP went out, 4 members were on the committee, and we got 4 proposals back, and our current vendor actually reduced their collection rate by 0.5%. So actually, we're going to see a savings, hopefully, depending on the number of runs that we have, which is currently about 7,200 per year.
So this is when we have to do an emergency call, send
all the ambulance billing. So they deal with the health insurance side of things and bill. So they collect about 55% of our ambulance billing is Medicare. Another 12% is Medicaid. So we bill out about $8 million, but we get 3.8 back, really, because of the contract costs with Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay, no, I just wanted to clarify what this was it's related to. Do we have any other questions from the committee?
No.
Okay, if there's none, then I would look for a motion, please.
Chair.
Yes.
I move for approval to the full council TMP-3650, an ordinance approving the award of RFP number 2026-046 for the EMS billing and cost recovery services for a 3-year term with up to 2 one-year renewals to EMS Management Consultants, Inc., and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
A second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3650 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item is TMP-3640, an ordinance approving the purchase and installation of PET Platinum turf at the City of Lee Summit Animal Control Facility through an existing city contract with Turf Etc. LLC, doing business as Sin Lawn, and in an amount not to exceed $167,030.14, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same by and on behalf of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri. Deputy Chief Bunker.
Hey, good evening. John Bunker, Deputy Chief of the Police Department. Our current animal control facility uses obviously natural grass surface, which is a little problematic with this. With the heavy daily use,
Sanitation requirements and weather conditions make the area difficult to maintain. The staff evaluated multiple alternatives with this project, including continued use of the natural turf. The maintenance was heavy with that, obviously. Gravel surfaces was looked at, concrete surfaces, and then the synthetic pet-rated turf system. We've realized savings within the current FY26 budget. We're not asking for additional funds. We're going to use an existing city contract. So with that, I'll just leave it to any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? So this will be less expensive to maintain over some of the other alternatives?
Yeah, there's a lot of other impacts as well, just with staff. Obviously, when the pets go out, when it's in muddy or, it gets tracked in, it's just additional assignments and tasks that then they, cleaning the inside as well. So, but as far as surface-wise and health-wise, a lot of the parva and different things, I'm getting way out of my expertise, but this turf system fights against that as well. So real good for all the four-legged animals as well.
Good to know. Thank you. Well, if I don't have any other questions or discussion, I would look for a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to recommend to full City Council TMP-3640, an ordinance approving the purchase and installation of pet platinum turf at the City of Lee Summit Animal Control Facility through an existing city contract with Turf ETC LLC DBA Sinlon in the amount not to exceed $167,030.14, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same by and on behalf of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3640 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item is TMP-3657, an ordinance authorizing an increase in spending under the professional services agreement between the City of Lee Summit and InSeed LLC for a contracted position to develop and present technical training for a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents for the same by and on behalf of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Diana Newman, Director of IT. This is a staffing agency that we had hired to deliver primarily Microsoft 365 training, the delivery of it, the development, and then also creating materials that, whether it's new employees or someone utilizing an application, that they would have training materials ongoing. Also, they are helping develop this cybersecurity training that is working with our cybersecurity manager and being able to present that to all employees as well. As far as the Microsoft 365 training, it has gone to specific departments focused on their needs. It's also been various training presented as lunch and learns for all employees that choose to attend, and then being available for questions. So they've been full-time, and we'd like to extend that to the end of the year to finish that training and have it presented for employees to continue to take.
Okay. Do we have any questions or discussion from the committee? Has the training had good uptake by the employees, like the optional ones? Do people like it?
Yes, so it's kind of varied on whether it's in person or online, but I think the best feedback I've gotten is more targeted to the department, and they had them show specific applications that would help them for their department, and just being able to have that interaction and questions.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion, then I would look for a motion.
Chair, I recommend for approval to the full council TMP-3657, an ordinance authorizing an increase in spending under the professional services agreement between the City of Lee Summit and InSeed LLC for a contracted position to develop and present technical training for a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents for the same by and on behalf of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3657 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All All right, next item on our agenda is TMP-3656, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of hardware, software, and services through the City of Mesa, Arizona SHI Omnia Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with SHI International in an amount not to exceed $3,300,000 as set out in the FY26 budget, and authorizing the city manager to execute any subsequent documents necessary to obtain the same for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri. Ms. Newman again.
Diana Newman, Information Technology. We had come earlier in the year for SHI for $1.15 million. However, with the facility added data center and additional software, SHI has also bid through RFPs on software and have won those. So this is basically a request for increase in spend for the amount this year, and the JOC data center is going to be about 1.1 million of that increase, which is actually three contractors are working together for us to be able to deploy that in time for the JOC as well as our upgrade at City Hall.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee?
No.
Okay, then I would look for a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to recommend to full city council TMP-3656, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of hardware, software, and services through City of Mesa, Arizona SHI Omnia Cooperative Purchase Agreement with SHI International in the amount not to exceed $3.3 million as set out in the fiscal year 26 budget, and authorizing the city manager to execute any subsequent documents necessary to obtain the same for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3656 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, that moves on to council. Next item is TMP-3655, an ordinance approving change order number 7 with AVAAP U.S.A. LLC to expand services to assist in implementing Workday Enterprise Resource Planning in an additional amount of $118,250 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $588,815, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri. Ms. Newman again.
Diana Newman, Director of IT. This is a correction, or not a correction, but additional services from AVAAP, but also it's changing an existing change order by changing the schedule. So the additions are, after police started using the scheduling, needed to make some enhancements for the views and make it easier for them to see the time and schedule changes relative to the positions. Also, just through that, it also worked on the scheduling absence and time tracking for police through that effort. The others were looking to add a Dell punch-out because of the volume that we purchased, similar to what we did with office supplies and other vendors where we could go directly to the catalog, which will allow us to get an e-quote and then procure and also automatically pull those assets into our asset inventory within Workday. Then also looking to do an integration with our CIS, Customer Information System, to be able to bring in the amount tendered so it makes the reconciliation more efficient with the bank. And then also the total of this is $118,000, but previously on the change order 4, we would have the total amount would be $588,000. Within change order 4 was where we had the contract management, which we're changing the schedule, as well as our strategic sourcing expert, and then our PRISM, which would be data that we would be able to archive data from maybe previous systems to report with our directly with our current active Workday data. We've spread that out. For one, there's internal resources, kind of spreading out the work while we get more efficient using the tools we have, but also then better defining the requirements in the future months and spreading that out into 2027.
So this is kind of a voluntary change in schedule on our side to give ourselves time to wrap our arms around the current rollout and then kind of phase in new
Correct, and with the contract management is to define how we want to operate within the city, but also it's a product that was purchased by Workday, so they're rolling it out more in 2026. So this gives them more time to fully integrate it and not taking the first version.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the committee? Okay. If not, I would look for a motion.
Chair, I move for approval to the full council TMP-3655 An Ordinance approving change order number 7 with AVAAP U.S.A. LLC to expand services to assist in implementing Workday Enterprises Resource Planning in an additional amount of $118,250 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $588,815 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend TMP-3655 to council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda is 2026-7545 presentation regarding FY27 general fund and public safety sales tax revenue projections. Mr. Stoyanov?
Good afternoon, Eric Stoyanov, Budget Manager. Today we're here to talk about the FY27 revenue projections for general fund and public safety sales tax. Just a quick agenda. We'll start with general fund revenue projections before moving on to public safety sales tax and then finishing up with budget next steps. So starting off with property tax, there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding property tax, which is 31% of our revenues. But as of right now, for Jackson County, we are expecting flat growth. Given the uncertainty around the senior tax freeze, the property tax credits, we've also received our preliminary assessed values, which showed negative growth. And so right now, with our state auditor tax levy calculation, that permitted revenue growth is 0% for FY27. And so given all of that, we thought it was the safest approach to go with a flat. We did increase Cass County slightly. They do not give us preliminary assessed values, but given historical data, we went with a minimal growth. But as you can see, just very small amount of growth for the property tax. This is a visual of what this category has looked like over the past few years. So you can see this is a clear outlier year. We have been averaging around 4 to 5% revenue growth for the property tax, but we also have much more uncertainty now than we have had in the past. And so we were going with a more conservative approach as of right now. It's one of those that we get it around the middle of the fiscal year. And so if it comes in stronger than expected, it's always something that we can reassess and maybe approach things that we didn't think were necessary at the beginning or available at the beginning of the fiscal year. But that is where it stands right now on property tax. For sales tax. So for sales tax, overall as a category, we're anticipating 3% growth. That sales tax number at the top does include marijuana tax. We are not allowed to kind of disclose what that is given the few dispensaries in the area. And so that is just a combination of those two numbers. Use tax, we're expecting just under 10% growth, I believe, for this FY27 fiscal year. Use tax is primarily where we're seeing a lot of the growth happen this fiscal year in particular. We're seeing slightly above 10% growth in use tax, whereas sales tax is about 1.4% year to date. And so a lot of that growth is coming in the use tax category. And then the economic activity taxes, the EATs, that's what we pay out as part of the development agreements. But 3% is overall where we expect this category to be for FY27 over the FY26 projection. And again, this shows the visual perspective going back to FY24. So you can see we had that 8%. That was a year where we had particularly high use tax. And then it's dropped down in the past few years. We had 4% growth in FY25. We're projecting 3% growth in FY26, and then again, 3% growth in FY27. This aligns pretty well with what we've seen prior to the new taxes. And so we were always in the 3 to 4% range. And then the use tax came on, kind of kicked off some growth for us in this category. Then the marijuana tax kicked off some growth in this category, but seems like we're reverting back to a normalized growth level in this category of that 3 to 4% range. Franchise tax. So this one, we have had to bring down our projection compared to where we start the FY26 budget year. This one is highly weather dependent too, with natural gas and electric, given the warmer temperatures that we've experienced. Natural gas, we're projecting it to be a decent amount lower than where we initially anticipated this budget year being. FY27, we expect some growth there. Telephone, this one actually is holding on a little bit better than we anticipated initially. Still seeing negative growth, but the negative growth isn't as dramatic as that we had initially expected. And so still expecting that to decline in FY27. Electric is another one that's underperformed where we initially expected it to be in FY26. We do have some growth back in there in FY27. A big reasoning for that is Evergy is proposing a rate increase of 15%. If it's approved, it would go into effect January 1st, also with just electricity demand increasing across the area. We do anticipate some electric growth. Cable was one that really hurt us in FY25 and FY26. We had been seeing relative decline of 5 to 10% every year, and then in FY25 it dropped 43%, and so it just fell off a cliff in 1 year. And so still expecting it to drop, but not as severely as what we experienced in FY25. But overall in this franchise tax section, just minimal growth. And here's a visual representation going back to FY24. So in recent years, we have had 3 negative years from FY23 to 24, and then again in 25, and we're projecting another negative year. But in FY27, given the reasons that talked about with electric primarily, we do expect modest growth in this category. I can pause at any time for questions if you have questions on anything. Motor vehicle tax. Motor vehicle tax. So this is one that's changing a little bit in FY27. So for the motor vehicle fuel tax, we had consistent fuel tax increases every fiscal year starting in October 2021. But this fiscal year is the last one of those scheduled fuel increases. And so FY27, we anticipate reverting back to basically what we saw prior to that 2021 implementation of those scheduled increases, which we had just seen about 1% or even less for fuel tax increases year over year. Motor vehicle sales tax, put 5% growth in here. May have been slightly aggressive, but looking at our history, the past 3 years, we've had 15% growth, 5%, then 6%. And so we've been seeing pretty good sales tax growth in the motor vehicle category. And then with the license and traffic fee, just minimal growth. And so you can kind of see the impact of that fuel tax here not being scheduled to increase again. That's why we've had that 7%, 10%, and 6%. For FY27, just expecting a modest 2% growth in this category, now largely driven by sales tax increase. And then here are all the other revenues that the city has. Fines and forfeitures, seeing a little bit of a down year just based on our actuals year to date. So this is items like minor traffic, court costs, things of that nature. Expect a little bit of growth again in FY27. We had been just north of that $1.3 million number, and now we're projecting that for FY27. Licenses and permits, worked closely with development services just to kind of get an understanding of what activity they're seeing and develop what we expect to end FY26 as well as that FY27 budget number. So still seeing a lot of activity with development services. Intergovernmental, it's a lot of our county and federal and some local intergovernmental agreements for things like school resource officers, hazardous moving violations, things of that nature. Charges for service, the biggest item here is ambulance fees. This also is an area that contains our EMS dispatch contracts and our tower leases, but those are the main drivers of this category. Other revenue, that includes things like the cigarette tax, intangible tax, material and fuel sales. This also has refunds and reimbursements. The biggest one in here is that GEMT program that we participate in, the Ground Emergency Medical Transportation. So we did have to bring that number down slightly compared to what we had seen in the past. There was a change in the formula and how it was applied. So we used to see about $1 million in revenue, only projecting about $600,000 in revenue for FY27. Investment earnings is just interest earnings on our portfolio. And then transfers in is our general and administrative fee that certain enterprise funds pay. And so it's just slightly north of 21 million, or slightly under 21 million, apologies, in that category. And here's a little closer look at the charges for service section. So you can see we had a little bit of an anomaly in FY25 where we dipped compared to what we'd seen in the past. That was primarily due to us switching auditors and how they requested us to handle ambulance fees. If something was not paid within 60 days, they wanted it to be deferred revenue. And so we had to do an adjustment to how we treated that. In future years now, that adjustment is expected to be smaller. So that is why we expect FY26 to kind of rebound to where we were, and FY27 to see just minimal growth. And so here's where we expect general fund overall. So property tax, as I mentioned, just very small growth, primarily from Cass County. Sales tax, 3% growth, franchise tax, motor vehicle, and then other revenue, all at 2%. And so overall, a 2% revenue growth compared to where we expect to end FY26. And I will pause there for any questions on general fund before we move into public safety sales tax.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Go on.
All right. So public safety sales tax, just the two items here for sales and use tax. So basically projecting the same thing that we're seeing with the general fund, similar trends. They are catching up a little bit. They're supposed to basically be half of what the general fund gets. Took a little bit of time to catch up to that full half amount just based on older collections and things of that nature. And so we're finally getting closer. So slightly more growth than the general fund, but not much. Essentially the same story there. Any questions on that one before we get to budget next steps?
Any questions from the committee on anything so far?
Nope.
Keep going.
All right. And so here's our budget timeline. Right now, obviously showing the revenue projections. According to our original budget calendar, April 20th is when we're supposed to be bringing forward general fund and public safety sales tax. May 4th was other funds. May 12th is public hearing. And then May 19th was the second reading of the budget. But I do know there's been discussions about adjusting this timeline potentially.
Yes, so we will have a meeting of this committee on April 20th, which is the day before sine die, right? So we'll all still be members of the council at that point. After that, what are our options? Since I believe Mayor Pro Tem is term limited, Councilmember Hodges is not running for re-election. So I think we're gonna, and Councilmember Lovell isn't running for election, so we won't have quorum on the committee.
Right, so the city manager and city attorney have discussed that. One of the things that could happen is working with the mayor to appoint a new temporary committee that will work through May of existing council members. And I don't know if Brian wants to jump in or Mark. So that is an option so that we don't put that burden on the newer council members that don't have any background in historical information.
Yeah, one quick clarification, current Mayor Pro Tem makes the assignments to the committee, so I could work with Mayor Pro Tem either on the meeting at the 14th or quite honestly, the 21st, just to get council members appointed to the finance and budget so we can continue this schedule. So that's an option.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem happens to be on this committee. Mayor Pro Tem, is that amenable to you to work with staff to
Yes,
get
I
someone?
think we've had similar, not exactly, but similar situations in the past. So absolutely, whatever we need to do to make it work.
Okay. Then I think we'll plan on that, and then we'll have this May 4th meeting, and then we'll just roll into the normal council public hearing schedule. That sound good to everybody?
That works. Just a note on the 20th, right? Well, it'll be more of a work session probably rather than a full presentation on the general fund budget, just as we continue to try to get to a balanced budget. I think that'd be helpful for us to share some thoughts as to where we're headed and get some feedback from the committee on that aspect.
Okay.
And I think for the context of the committee to be ready for this conversation. Obviously, we're all aware that we just passed a couple of new collective bargaining agreements. One will go to second reading, I believe, in a week or two, on the 14th. So those are increasing some costs. And as we just saw in this presentation, we're not expecting really significant increases in revenues. So we're going to have to be in kind of a tightening mode, making some choices we haven't had to make in previous years recently. So just it's going to be a little bit more of a challenging discussion than some that we've had in prior years. So just to kind of be aware of those dynamics going in.
That's fair.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Anything further on the revenue presentation? All right. Then we'll move on to a report regarding our investment portfolio. Item 2026-7566, report investment portfolio reports for the quarters ended September 30, 2025 and December 31, 2025. Ms. Brockhouse.
Susan Brockhouse, Cash Management Officer. Thank you. I'm pleased to present a brief summary on the city's investment summary for the quarters ended September 30, 2025 and December 31st, 2025. The total portfolio as of September 30, 2025 was $267,484,387. As of December 31st, 2025, the total portfolio was $311,280,609. Specifically with regard to the MOSIP debt service proceeds, our final drawdown on our 2024A bond proceeds occurred in early November. Excuse me. And the 2025A bond issuance closed in November with 2 drawdowns that were scheduled prior to our December quarter end. .4% of our portfolio is invested in U.S. Treasury securities, 7.1% in our U.S. government agency securities and government-sponsored enterprises, with the remainder in demand deposits, domestic time deposits, and of course the MOSIP funds. As we've discussed previously, our primary objectives are always safety, liquidity, and yield. If we look at our distributions by maturity range, this is at market value. I'm going to focus on the December date. During that period, we had roughly 35% of our portfolio was in a maturity of 1 year or less. We had about 44% in the 1 to 3 year category, and then just over 20% in an over 3 category. Again, as a reminder, we are able to have maturities of up to 5 years from the date of purchase. During the quarter ended September 30th, we actually had 8 securities with a total par value of $24 million, just over $24 million, that matured. Their yields ranged from just over 3.2% to 4.3%. We actually only purchased 2 securities during that period with a total par value of $10 million, with yields ranging from 3.93% to 3.954%. Then in the final quarter of the year, we had 3 maturities with a total par value of $12 million. Their yield ranges were 4.037% to 5.08%. We did not make any Treasury or government agency security purchases during that period. A lot of our efforts have been kind of to really focus in on our cash flow, as we've certainly, with our higher debt service payments and then with our increased project spending, we're kind of realigning and refocusing our cash flow.
We do have about 7 active bidders for our investment bids, and they're just incredibly competitive. Our mark-to-market adjustment for our fiscal year to date is just over $7.6 million. We made quarterly adjustments at the end of September of $664,408.88, and then again in December of just over $1 million. So, questions?
Do you have any questions from the committee? No, I appreciate the update.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to roundtable. So as we already mentioned, we'll have our next meeting on the 20th, which is an additional meeting since we're into budget season. Do we have any other roundtable from the committee? Do we have any roundtable from staff?
No, other than we are diligently working to create a balanced budget to present to you.
Appreciate that. All right, then we will adjourn this meeting at 5:06 p.m.